Hey everyone, welcome to Cinema Safari. Today we're jumping over to television, talking about Star Trek Starfleet Academy. This is set in Alex Kurtzman's expanded Star Trek universe. It's the 12th series in the Star Trek franchise. Um, Latest installment, a lot to talk about. It stars Holly Hunter as the captain of the USS Athena, which is the main ship that the Academy is based out of in the series, and she's also the chancellor of the Academy. So a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss with this series and its impact in the overall franchise going forward. So we're jumping right into it, and join us as we enroll in Starfleet Academy. Star Trek Starfleet Academy is the 12th series, part of Alex Kurtzman's expanded Star Trek universe that began with Star Trek Discovery in 2017. So it deals a lot with the cataclysmic events that were depicted in the latter seasons of Discovery, specifically the very last season, which took a big time jump from the first couple seasons in that show. So we kind of see the fallout of that event and how it's affecting Starfleet in the beginning of this new series. So we do see the first group of cadets, new cadets in Starfleet Academy in almost a century, as they enroll in the academy and come of age, train to be officers. They're taught aboard the USS Athena, which is a starship that docks at the Starfleet Academy campus in San Francisco, but it can also be deployed with the rest of the fleet as a ship in space, flown with the crew. So we see Holly Hunter as the captain of the USS Athena. She's the chancellor of the academy. Joined by several newer faces to the franchise, newer actors that aren't really as well known playing the cadets. And we also see Paul Giamatti in a recurring role in this first season as the main antagonist of the first season. So in the series, we've only got, I believe, 4 episodes so far, maybe 5. So still kind of trying to find its footing. There have been a lot of good reviews for the show. In certain aspects, good, some mixed as well. But we also get a lot of just depiction of the Academy, the Starfleet Academy, that we haven't really seen before in any Star Trek media, I think. At least this much in depth. A big thing with the series is that it is heavily based on focus on these cadets and their interactions with each other, relationships, stuff like that. So in a sense, there's a like very big aspect of like the drama of it, stuff like that, which has been more of kind of a critical aspect in the reviews, at least early on in the series. So the series is, before we jump to that, it is set about 15 years after the end of Discovery. So it's set, and there's a prologue in the first episode of the series set in 3180, and then the series really takes place in 3195, which is the latest in the Star Trek timeline in the whole franchise that we've seen depicted in any kind of media to this point. So this time period we haven't seen before, so that part kind of makes it intriguing. What we're going to see in this time period, in this future setting, compared to the rest of the franchise, and how they're gonna make that look and feel and all the different areas with potential of exploring down the road in the series. I think having it set in this later time period that we haven't hasn't really been touched to this point. There's definitely a lot of potential with it. As long as they do it right, hopefully. We've seen that, in the past, like Star Wars with the sequel trilogy, set in a later time period. That was the first time that was explored. Hit or miss for some people, definitely had its pros and cons. So just I think that ultimately the success of this series set in this future timeline will just depend on like how it's developed. Definitely has the potential, so we'll just have to kind of wait and see once we start getting more and more episodes of the series. So the critical reception, there's been good and bad. And it is still very early on in the series. We've only got a few episodes so far, so it's still trying to find its footing, maybe. So even like the critical aspects of some of the reviews definitely can be worked on, fixed, and maybe as we get more episodes released, some of these smaller issues will kind of fix themselves, so to speak, down the line once we get more story and see more of the characters. But a big issue that has been talked about with the series so far is the character development. Having said that, like again, we've only gotten a few episodes, so it might just be a matter of taking some time to really get that development with certain characters in the series that have already been introduced. So we'll see on that. But many viewers have expressed their disappointment with the character portrayals, describing them as lacking depth, chemistry. The younger cast performances have been criticized for feeling forced, unconvincing, leading to a lack of emotional engagement with the audience. A lot of the cadets in the series are newer actors. Like you do have Holly Hunter in the leading role, the main role. So like you have a big name there. Paul Giamatti as the main antagonist, very big as well. His involvement, he's expressed interest in joining the Star Trek franchise for a while. And so his involvement is big, I think, as well. So two of them are definitely the strong point as far as the cast goes. The cadets are all very new actors, kind of like unknown actors, so to speak. So I haven't looked too deep into any of their filmographies, like on IMDb or anything. So I don't really know like how much they've been in before this or anything like that. But they are younger actors, maybe not as much experience, especially on a project this big. Being involved in Star Trek, it is a big franchise, so that also just comes with experience. Maybe the pressure of being on like such a huge budget show, a bigger thing than maybe you're used to, or maybe you have experience with. So there's definitely a lot that can factor into that performance wise. But I mean, the character development, yes, it is an issue. But maybe down the line, especially as they get more familiar with these characters that they are playing, some of those character development issues that reviewers have been seeing in the first few episodes might slowly start to fix themselves. From an actor standpoint, getting more understanding of how your character is and how you're playing them, getting more comfortable in the role and in the setting you're playing them in. So those issues could work themselves out down the line. Another kind of issue, the writing and tone of the series. Critics have noted that the writing feels shallow, resembles like a teen drama, more than the thoughtful science fiction that Star Trek is known for. It's been heavily compared to like CW dramas, with some reviewers feeling it fails to capture the aspirational spirit of previous Star Trek iterations. So I definitely, having watched the first few episodes, I definitely can see why people are saying that, and thinking about it, I definitely do agree with a lot of that aspect of it. Um, I mean, like comparing it, the CW is very well known for like its drama, overacting in certain shows. Like there have been some exceptions of shows that on the CW that have been well done in that sense, more than others. But yeah, it's definitely the CW is known for that, like drama, overacting, stuff like that. Um, we definitely get that sense in this series so far, especially with the cadets. It is a series that is heavily based on like their interactions with each other and like just getting their experience, or characters getting their experience in the larger world of Starfleet. So it is kind of that type of show compared to other Star Trek shows that we've gotten. Um, so that might kind of be the intention that Alex Kurtzman and the writers are taking with the show, at least for this first season. And maybe as the show continues to develop more in future seasons, if we do get potentially future seasons, it might start to develop into more of that science fiction type show that Star Trek is well known for, and why it's been such a huge success in the past. But definitely this first season, especially what we've gotten so far, is definitely more of that drama aspect, because it is centered around the cadets, trying to figure out their way in the universe in Starfleet. So it definitely is a show that is based more on that, especially right now, where we're seeing the characters in the story. So that could change down the line. Like I said, we'll have to wait and see, like with the character development. But again, that could be intentional based on just what the show is. It is a very different feel though than other Star Trek media. So, if you did compare it to like other Star Trek shows, Next Generation, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, even like Strange New Worlds, Discovery, it definitely does have a different feel. And if you do compare it to those past iterations, in the terms of like being a great science fiction show, it might disappoint you. But if you go in knowing what you're getting, it's really not bad. Just in terms of being like a great like science fiction Star Trek show of what Star Trek is known for, you don't really get that, at least with the episodes they've released so far. There have also been positive aspects with the series. Despite the criticism, some reviewers have highlighted the show's potential, knowing that it does successfully combine the adolescent themes, um, that have been highlighted in the show so far, with classic Star Trek elements like interstellar diplomacy, ethical dilemmas. It's described as deeply sincere, and some critics do appreciate its attempts to explore new narratives within the Star Trek universe. Like I said, this show so far, from what we've seen, definitely feels different than pretty much any other Star Trek media we've ever gotten, really. So that is good and bad. It's definitely expanding the universe, the franchise in a new way that we haven't seen. So it's double-edged sword. There are definitely positives and negatives to that. But it definitely does have the potential to become the next big show. I think there's definitely like a lot of the groundwork is definitely there. There's definitely a lot of good that can come out of this show, especially as it kind of starts to find its footing a little more. So I think it definitely does have the potential to turn into something big and successful for this franchise. and even pave the way for future installments down the line. Also, the visual and conceptual appeal in the series are also positive. So the setting is in the 32nd century. So it is an area of like a time range in Star Trek that has not been explored before. So having this future setting, it is just the concept of the reopened academy are intriguing backdrops for the storytelling within this new setting that we haven't really been introduced to in the past, haven't really seen. So there's a lot of potential in that respect for new settings, new locations that can be introduced in the series because it is set in a time that we haven't seen before in the franchise. So there's definitely a lot of potential for the show. It also features a lot of like familiar lore and new characters, with some fans finding appealing with the lore and stuff like that. Um, so the executions haven't necessarily been even throughout for the whole like storytelling and writing, which has also been kind of criticized. But overall, it definitely has the potential to become something great. Again, I think it's just right now finding its footing, um, just trying to find its place of where it fits in the grand scheme of like the whole franchise. But being set in a time period that we haven't seen before, that definitely there's so much they can do with it, a lot of potential there. Um, Watching these characters grow, especially the cadets, from now until potentially like a third and fourth season, even like down the line, seeing where they go, how they grow into their own within the grand scheme of Star Trek. There's definitely a lot of potential, and I'm excited to see where they do go with the series and the characters in future seasons. So there's definitely a lot of potential with that, and I'm excited to see where they go from here. So that being said, the down the line, the future of the Star Trek franchise. This is the 2026 marks the 60th anniversary of the premiere of Star Trek and the beginning of the franchise. So there's celebrations planned all throughout the year. Some events include a float in the Rose Parade and various merchandise releases featuring special anniversary logos throughout the year. It will culminate in September, coinciding with Star Trek Day. So there's definitely a lot to be celebrated with the franchise. Definitely a lot of history there, going back 60 years. Definitely a lot to talk about, a lot to celebrate. Um, if you're just getting into the franchise, this is a great time to get into it. There's been a lot of shows released in the past few years that have been well received. So there's definitely a lot to talk about, a lot to watch, and a lot of positives down the line going into the future of the series. I think a lot of potential to even expand it further. It continues to evolve with a mix of returning characters and new stories. So there's definitely a lot of potential for seeing the series and the franchise grow and keep expanding, keep evolving. They do continue with new things, adding new elements to the overall franchise, going from series to series. And a big thing is the introduction of robots in Starfleet Academy series. This marks a significant shift in the franchise's approach to technology, reflecting contemporary advancements in automation and AI. So overall, the future of Star Trek is very promising. They've been using a blend of nostalgia and innovation that aims to engage both longtime fans and new audiences. So there's definitely a lot to look forward to. A lot they are planning both this year and just in general. Being the 60th anniversary year, expect a lot of exciting announcements and news and celebrations this year. And I'm excited to see how they continue to grow the franchise moving forward. So with that, we are going to wrap up today's episode. So like I said before, Starfleet Academy definitely has a lot of potential. It is compared to some other series that have been released in the past few years that have like started off strong. This didn't necessarily start off super strong. There's definitely a lot of positives to talk about in the series, even in the first few episodes that we have been able to see so far. But there are definitely issues within the series that definitely have the potential to be fixed, to be worked on just down the line going forward as the series continues to expand and evolve going into potential future seasons. So there's definitely a lot of pros and cons. There's a lot of potential for the overall Star Trek franchise. I don't know if there's anything announced specifically for Alex Kurtzman's expanded universe that is continuing with this series. And its connection to some of the other series like Discovery, Strange New Worlds. Strange New Worlds, I believe, is releasing its last two seasons either this year and next year or something like that. I know they got renewed for a fourth and fifth season, I believe. And I know the fifth season is going to wrap up that series. And that series has been very, very well received from day one. So unlike the series, which is kind of still finding its footing, but definitely the potential is there. So going forward in the Star Trek franchise, definitely they continue to evolve the franchise, adding new elements, old elements, mixing it together. There have been a lot of successes in the Star Trek franchise within its 60-year run, and a lot to celebrate and a lot to look forward to in the future as they continue to evolve. And I'm excited to see where they go and what they continue to bring to the table. So I'd like to hear your thoughts if you've seen the first few episodes of Starfleet Academy or compares with some of the other series, your overall thoughts on the franchise, especially going into the 60th anniversary year, what you want to see going forward in the franchise and everything like that. So make sure you like today's episode. Subscribe if you're not already. Follow us on social media if you're not, Instagram, X. And thank you for watching. Hope you all have a great day, and we will see you next time.